We have reached the point that many Americans have been waiting for, where the Republican Party introduces the man they believe will take back the White House, will change America for the better by keeping Hillary Clinton from continuing policies that they steadfastly accept has kept this nation back for 8 years and more. And will once again, as the saying goes, he will make America great again. But it has been a rocky few days along the county seat in Cuyahoga County, with plenty of ground shake felt well beyond the borders of Lake Erie, and more than a few who will gather in Philadelphia next week believing that what has transpired inside the Quicken Loans Arena will be better for them than it will be for the GOP. This is where that battle takes off, where Donald Trump and his supporters are now full bore for the presidency. Are they ready? And what will we hear tonight? Welcome to our special coverage of the Republican National Convention here on Newsmax. I'm Ed Berliner. We welcome your phone calls and comments at 1-877-NEWSMAX for the next hour and into the night as we cover the final night of convention. So let's get to work. Joined leadoff by host of the show seen right on this time slot every weeknight here on Newsmax from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern and repeated at 10 Eastern, Steve Molesberg. And former chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Shillman, senior fellow at the Investigative Project on Terrorism and author of Architects of Disaster, The Destruction of Libya, from Cleveland, Pete Hoekstra. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Steve, let me begin with you. Donald Trump will take the stage tonight. He will deliver the speech that Republicans have been waiting for almost a year. What do you want him to say? What do you think he will say?
I want him to spell out the differences. I think the introduction by his daughter will put a personal touch on who he is as a man. I want him to spell out the differences between he and Hillary, whether it's on radical Islam and his plan compared to her statement, her tweet that Muslims have absolutely nothing to do with terrorism. I want him to point out that speaking at the convention in Philadelphia, there's going to be the mothers of criminals who were shot by cops legitimately, as if to indict the cops yet again after they've been found not guilty or not charged at all. I wanted to point out all the differences between the two and talk about, and I think he will mention this. People say her slogan is you're with her or whatever. He's going to say I'm with you. And I think that's very important. It's time for change. She's the old, he's the new. And he should also talk about the corruption and how she takes money from countries. I hope somebody finally says that. I hope it's Trump. She takes money from countries that kill gays. I think that's very important because it's true.
Pete, let me come to you then, because what Steve says is what a lot of the hardcore Republicans and conservatives want to hear. This is a message, though, that Donald Trump has brought to the American public now for more than a year. He has said many of these things over and over and over again. He needs to make the point again. But, Pete, what else do you want him to say? What more does he need to add to his statement tonight?
Well, what the American people need to see when Donald Trump is done tonight, they need to see that they've got a trusted individual who is running for president and who is committed to changing Washington and changing the system. People are sick and tired of Washington. They're sick and tired of a Washington that is not growing or is not providing an environment where the economy can grow, is not keeping us safe internationally, is not keeping us safe domestically. They want this message of change, but most importantly, Donald Trump has to come off as someone who is likable and has the leadership to make the tough decisions to get this country moving forward.
Pete, when you use the phrase changing the system, you are correct. That's what people want. Then again, I will point out that we have been hearing that now for decades from people who always want someone to change the system, to make it different, to make it better. You've been there. You've been on the inside. Give me one or two things that Donald Trump needs to change right away, or whoever takes over from that very first day, that will be something that people can look at and say, that changes the system.
Well, the one thing, but I'm not sure the American people will catch it very quickly. He's got to close the State Department. He's got to close the White House to the Muslim Brotherhood. Internationally, he's got to say the Muslim Brotherhood, those folks who want to establish a caliphate, who want to destroy America and everything we stand for, they are no longer welcome to discuss and influence our foreign policy. Domestically, he has to start talking about and laying out the programs. And you're exactly right. Republicans have talked about change. And we've talked about shrinking government. George Bush comes into office, and the first thing that he does is he creates a massive education program. That's why people are frustrated. The second thing he does is he creates a massive prescription drug benefit. He's just got to start doing some things that clearly demonstrate that he is taking America down a road which is more freedom for the people and less growth and less power in Washington.
Steve, let me bring you back into this because what Pete has said is true, what you have said is true. There needs to be changes here. Donald Trump needs to talk about them here this evening. But people will say that Republicans are part of the problem, that Republicans are the ones who haven't changed it themselves. Isn't it fair to say that there needs to be a change in the Republican message, the Republican method, the way of doing things, that has to change? The outside has to change to get inside the system.
Well, the only thing wrong with Republicans is that they've given Obama everything he wants. They've acquiesced. They've tried to be too cooperative. They've let him get away with everything he's tried to do. They haven't fought back. Well, I think Donald Trump's candidacy proves that people are tired of that leadership. Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, Paul Ryan are responsible for Donald Trump being where he is, even though Mitch McConnell laughed that off when I asked him if he was when I spoke with him. So I think the change has already occurred. Donald Trump not only will present himself as, but everybody knows he's not a political insider. He's not a politician. That's why he does things differently. And they see that. And that's why he got more votes than any other Republican ever got. The Republican Party has been afraid. They're afraid of Donald Trump. They're afraid of Barack Obama. They're afraid to rock the boat. Donald Trump is rocking the boat. And if you get on board with Trump, you will be in a boat that's rocking.
1-877-Newsmax. If anyone would like to join us across the country right now, don't forget this coverage goes until late tonight because Donald Trump's speech will be heard right here on Newsmax. Hey, Pete, something else that has come up in the last 24 hours. Donald Trump's assertion in a New York Times article basically saying that the United States shouldn't immediately defend NATO allies. Basically, what he is saying in essence is if you haven't paid your bills, then there's a chance that we won't come in and we will not back you, which I believe is against Article 5 itself. As someone who's involved in security and knows all these issues very well, is he right, and was this the right tack to take?
Well, I think, again, it sends a clear message. People in America, grassroots people, the people who make America work each and every day, are sick and tired of footing the bill for our allies overseas at the same time that they're using the dollars that they should be investing in defense. We're investing our dollars for their defense, and then they're investing their dollars that they should be spending on defense. They're investing it in their economy. They're giving it back to their people for health care, for infrastructure, to compete with us economically. And so I think sending a clear signal, number one, that America is going to be a strong ally, a trusted ally, but as such, we are going to be a demanding ally that says if you want to be a friend of the United States, we'll carry out our end of the bargain, but it also means that there are responsibilities on your side. I think that's a great message and a sharp contrast to Barack Obama, who has sold our allies down the street. Take a look at what he did to Mubarak, what he's done to Gaddafi, what he's done to Israel. So I think it's a perfect tack to tell our allies, we'll stand with you, but along with that comes expectations.
Pete, and I agree with you completely. 1-877-Newsmax if people want to weigh in, but let's talk about this as well. Do you believe that maybe the first words out of his mouth should have been what you just said? We're going to be a strong ally. We're going to have your backs. We're going to be right there because this administration in power right now has not done it, so we're going to be there, but we need to change things a little bit. Isn't there a more diplomatic way to say things?
Sure, there's a more diplomatic way to say things, and sometimes we don't like the way that he says things, but you know what? People in Washington are sick and tired of the politically correct and saying things what sometimes, I'm Dutch, we call the Dutch nice way. Let's not offend anybody. But, the American people have heard for, 16, 20 years, hey, we're going to fix the tax code. We're going to, get immigration under control. We're going to defeat these radical jihadists, and they've said it in nice ways, and nobody believes them, and they have a right not to believe the politicians because they have never delivered. Donald Trump is sending a signal. He has already changed the Republican Party. He has changed politics in the United States by being blunt and trying to send the very clear message that you can trust me. I'm going to get this done.
I got about 2 minutes left here. And by the way, I want to remind everybody that Steve Malzberg is going to stay with us after the break, and we're going to strictly devote that to your phone calls, the people who are watching us around the globe at 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-Newsmax. Get on the line right now and make sure that you are heard as we head into the night here for the Republican National Convention. Steve, as a fellow broadcaster, let me ask you your take on Fox and what has happened today, because that is the second big piece of news today. Roger Ailes is out, the guy who helped put Fox together, the gentleman who made it a powerhouse for the Republican Party. Do you think that this is the, I don't want to say the end of Fox, because they're going to continue to make billions and billions of dollars, but is this where Republicans maybe need to take a look and say, maybe you're not having our best interests at heart all the time?
Well, I mean, I just think it's a shame to see somebody who built something up and made it into the huge success it's been over the past 20 years to see him go this way, when reportedly Megyn Kelly, who he took from, nothing and made her into a superstar. If it's true that the reports say that she told investigators into the sexual harassment claims that 10 years ago she didn't like the way he hugged her. I mean, if that's where we are as a society, and if that's where they are as a company, then we're all done. But I just think it's a sad day. I think Fox will persevere. I do have fears that Murdoch will eventually bring his kids in, and you're not going to see the conservative angle or the fair angle or both sides. Just as you don't see it on CNN, you don't see it on MSNBC, you don't see it anywhere. You see it on Newsmax. But certainly the more the merrier when it comes to presenting alternative points of view.
Pete, I got about 25 seconds left. Do you think that this will lessen the conservative message from Fox, and this is a great opportunity for other networks to get in there, like Newsmax, and take advantage of it?
If Fox changes their message and they move away from a conservative message and a conservative line of thinking, absolutely. That's the great thing about free markets. There's a huge market out there for the conservative message. Wish the best to Newsmax, wish the best to Fox, but we're going to, it's going to resonate, and there's people who want that viewpoint.
And there is no doubt that the conservative message is heard more likely than the liberal message across the airwaves in America, and they're the ones that get the big ratings day in and day out. Pete Hoekstra, pleasure, my friend. Enjoy Cleveland. Get to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame before you leave, will you please? If you're there, you may as well take advantage of it. Steve Malzberg, stay where you are. Reminder once again, Steve is going to stay with us. We're going to come back and devote the next segment specifically to your phone calls about what you want to hear Donald Trump say tonight. 1-877-Newsmax. 1-877-Newsmax. Get on the line. Our special coverage of the Republican National Convention continues.